I broke 3 vertebrae, mangled my wrist, and found myself back in Tampa with a brace on my back, mangled wrist, and just wondering, no, this isn't really happening. I mean, I was a work hard, play hard guy. I wasn't going to stop.
What up, Vibers? Welcome back to the Vibe with Kai podcast brought to you by Sucreabeille. Before we dive in, you have to check out our collaboration scent with Sucreabeille called Why Did I Walk Into This Room? It smells like fresh baked cherry pie and absolute acceptance. I like to call it a gender-neutral love letter to the ADHD community. You can find that and so much more at sucreabeille.com. Okay, today I am sitting down with Jay McHale. Jay was a high-flying investment banker who thought he was living the dream until a near-fatal ski accident in the Alps forced him into 9 months of absolute stillness. He went from chasing million-dollar deals to becoming a 500-hour yoga instructor and the founder of FlowVeda. In this episode, we are talking about the science of autopilot, how to break up those deep neural pathways formed in childhood, and why we confuse moving fast with actually being productive. If you feel like your life is just a series of external fires that you're constantly putting out, this episode is for you. All right, just a heads up for my $5 a month subscribers on Patreon and Facebook. During this interview, Jay and we recorded a reverse the mic segment where Jay put me in the hot seat and asked me some deeply personal questions about my own journey. If you aren't a subscriber, you're going to miss out on that exclusive chat. But when you join the inner circle, you don't just get that hot seat. You get full access to my entire ADHD deep dive video library and behind the scenes looks at my private life and mental health journey that I don't share anywhere else. All right, my friends, let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Jay McHale. So, Jay, looking at your bio, you have lived what looks like two completely different lives, right? You have the investment banker life, you have the wellness life, and all of that. But there is a very specific, very intense moment that splits up those two timelines that I want to dive into. I want to take us back to the Alps first,
Yeah.
right? You're living this high speed, capitalist driven life, as you called it, and then everything just stops, right?
Yep.
Tell us what happened and what was going through your mind in those first moments when you realized that this grind was literally on pause.
Yeah, I think I went through the 5 stages,
Mm-hmm.
and it took over the course of, I would call it a couple of weeks, but I was in the Alps visiting some friends, was kind of celebrating a rather large closing that happened. So I was visiting some friends in Geneva. I flew to Rome for 4 or 5 days on my own just to explore, came back, and at the end of the trip, we were planning on meeting roughly 30, 40 people, getting together for a week-long ski trip on the French side of the Alps. It was
Mm-hmm.
neat that you could ski over one mountain and be in the other country, and
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was really like kind of top of the world, literally, moment in my life. And um, I'm a Midwesterner, hanging out with friends from, actually, I think I was the only American there. It was, and I was still single. So all of my European friends ski, several weekends out of the year. And I think I've skied maybe, 4 or 5 weeks in my life prior to that. And
Right.
so, when you get on your skis towards the end of a trip, you're pretty good, after a while, and versus when the first day. And so I got a little arrogant and was kind of pausing over what I thought would be a nice little fun ski jump, which is nothing I'd done in the past. And I thought I wasn't even sure if I'd get over the hump, but I went and I flew way faster than I thought. Turned
Mm-hmm.
out to be a half pipe. There was no downhill impact to, kind of slow my impact. So I landed flat on the ground. I broke 3 vertebrae, mangled my wrist. And normally, I mean, I've been an athlete my whole life. I've had injuries. I usually get up. I couldn't get up. And my friends helped me to an ambulance. I went to a Swiss hospital. I was there overnight. I talked my way out of it because I had to get home on a plane the next day, and found myself back in Tampa with a brace on my back, mangled wrist, and just wondering, no, this isn't really happening. I mean, I was a work hard, play hard guy.
Sure.
I wasn't going to stop. This wasn't going to stop me. I actually had my Chartered Alternative Investment Analyst exam, my second one up in Gainesville, Florida, like 3 days after I got home, and I drove on pain pills, left-handed in a stick shift
Oh
for
my
four
goodness.
hours, sat through a 5-hour test, and drove back. And I think by the time I got back, I realized things have got to change. I can't do this, and so I had surgery on my wrist, and the doctor said, you're hang it up for a year. You're not going anywhere. You're on the couch.
Mhm.
So yeah, from that standpoint, I was facing an identity that I was attached to, which was work hard, play hard, live it up, go out late, wake up early, and that was done. So
Sure.
I had some introspection to go through, and that's kind of where things started to really change.
Right, and it was about 9 months of
Hmm.
recovery, right? And so for someone like myself and a lot of my audience, who have to manage our ADHD or just a busy brain, right? We just have a busy
Yeah,
brain nonstop. Being forced to sit still and just like is it's like torture. It
yeah,
really is like
yeah.
torture. It sounds like it feels like we're in a cage
Yeah.
sometimes. I'm curious if, like, in your situation, if you ever felt like you were just stuck in a cage, and if so, how did you manage the noise that was most likely in your head when your body wouldn't let you run away from this situation, like, especially because you're an athlete and you're used to certain things that you just couldn't do during this recovery. How did you quiet the noise in your brain?
Yeah, I think it took a couple of days, but not that
Hmm.
long. I tend to think of myself as a problem solver,
Mm,
so I didn't sit with it too terribly long. Even though I was forced to sit with it, but I really just said, what am I going to do with this moment? Um,
hmm.
I was in a fortunate situation that I was running my own investment banking boutique firm, and I was fortunate that and you don't get paid very often, but when you do, and it depends on the deals, but you can make a nice amount of money. So I was in a situation where sitting for 9 months, I could survive. I mean, there was nothing. I did not need to make money. I could, sit there and be introspective and try to heal. So
Yeah.
I had the benefit, and I've been poor before and after,
Hmm.
and those are things that weigh on you, especially create stress and anxiety that
Sure.
it's hard to run away from. So I was fortunate not to have that weighing on me. Um, but I did have to like sit down and think, something happened on that mountain that didn't have to happen.
Hmm.
I made a choice, and it was a foolish one, and I was going for excitement, but something made me do that, and so I needed to figure that out.
Right.
So for me, it was I didn't really sit with the stillness too long. I went right to Amazon,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, what was going through my head? And there's got to be an answer to this and a cure for it. Like,
Yeah.
and this kind of self-inflicted wound that I created. So I went on Amazon. First thing I went after was psychology books. I read everything you could imagine. Freud, Carl Jung. It
Hmm.
led me, and it was just a windy road. I was just eating books daily, and I got to psychocybernetics. I don't know if
Hmm.
you've read that or heard of that one, but it's about a plastic surgeon who recognized that people can't necessarily change their inner subconscious mind just by changing their outer appearance,
Sure.
even though they think they could. And it became kind of the basis for a lot of psychology today. And it blew my mind that a plastic surgeon is kind of one of the revolutionaries of psychology. And
Yeah.
um, but he talked a lot about the subconscious and how it goes after a target, and it made me realize that I was something in me was wanted this change to happen.
Yeah.
And the more I read, the more I looked back on my life and kind of reflected and started to notice some patterns. I mean, I thought I was living life as best I could. I was from a lower middle class income family home, kind of paycheck to paycheck. I worked odd jobs. I shoveled driveways. I was constantly trying to overcome things.
Mhm.
Um, I was a straight A student in grade school through high school, achieved and excelled in sports, practiced, tried to be the best I could at everything. Um, but there was never an end to it. And I realized that was the same thing I was doing with my career in investment banking. I was chasing the next bigger deal. There was no fulfillment in it. Closed a big deal. It was excitement and a thrill for a couple of hours, but it kind of was fleeting. It went away. It was very
Yeah.
hollow. And I realized that I wasn't myself. I wasn't truly who I wanted to be. And that was that's when really I started to kind of detach from what that identity that I had and realize like there's more to this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that was kind of the beginning, and then I had a real breakthrough in physical therapy. I had a guy helping me through my muscles and my legs were very had a lot of atrophy and
Yeah.
kind of muscle memory from the accident. And so he asked me once to breathe into my muscle. And I laughed at him.
Mhm.
I thought that was crazy. I was like, I breathe
Yeah.
into my lungs, and he laughed at me and didn't say much. And I immediately went back to Amazon and I started ordering books on breath, trying to figure out what he was talking about, and didn't make the connection that it was both a mental connection to breath and how you can redirect it in your mind to certain parts of your body and actually cause the muscles to change or release. It was kind of my first introduction to kind of the yogi
Mhm.
world. And so I worked on it on my own. And 2 weeks later, he came in and basically said, just keep doing this. I'm not coming back. You figured it out. And I, my physical therapy was over and I was once again lost. I was not ready to go back to work and and I just wanted to figure this out. So my
Right.
mind had been blown the whole time, and so a month later, I started taking yoga classes, and I went every night, and it was something you'd never find me in a yoga studio 9 months, 10 months earlier. Never.
Yeah.
That guy thought that stuff was kind of a waste of time and
Yeah.
funny, and you're just stretching, and as it turns out, I was there for the kind of the mental side of it. Everybody else there was certainly there for what seemed like they were all there more for for both the mental and the physical, and met a lot of great people, and it drove me to take a 200-hour yoga instructor class, which was kind of every other weekend full time, and uh, loved it and dove deeper and deeper, experimented with different stuff, and 2 years later, I was a 500-hour yoga instructor, and I was teaching classes 3 days a week.
That's amazing. That's
So.
amazing. You it's funny listening to the story, like, you had, like, these little mini, I guess, breakthroughs mentally,
Mhm.
like, these moments that made you into who you are today. I'm curious if there's one breakthrough moment, like a specific moment that stands out to you when you realized, like, "Oh, I'm not going back to spreadsheets
Yeah,
anymore. I'm not going
yeah.
back to that." Was there a specific moment of clarity when you realized that your old life just didn't fit you anymore?
Wow. I mean, it was constant. I
Sure.
feel
Yeah.
like it was just there's constant reminders that so every time when I reflected on my old self, and it's like as in yoga they call it the samskaras, but the
Mhm.
it's kind of like all the patterns that you had in your life. And you see them, they come up and they come up in triggers or emotional
Mhm.
reactions. And I was very boisterous, outspoken, opinionated. All of my, friends either dealt with me or enjoyed the banter. I was
Mhm.
very sarcastic.
Sure.
And when you start to see that the words do matter, I was always a numbers guy. And, um, when you realize that the words that you're telling yourself, that you're exposing your mindset, your subconscious to, um, that's playing out in your life. And so, when I realized that and I was reminded each time, when I was drawing certain people or experiences that I didn't want to be around, it was more of a reflection of my old self. And so I just had to keep working, keep trying, keep bringing myself back to being present. I was full time meditating at that point. I actually was meditating before I got into yoga. That was one of the inspiring practices that I kind of brought into my life back then to get through the recovery. And I can say with much honesty, there you're working out your mind every time whether you're meditating or even just in the real world, and you start thinking about something. Your mental chatter goes somewhere. Your monkey mind, as they call it in yoga, goes
Yeah.
somewhere. It's the practice of bringing yourself back to the moment. That's the mental rep. That's you working out your mind. So like I joke with my mother who says she tries to meditate, but she's not good at it. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
nobody's good at it. And the whole practice behind it is being able to take that awareness of who you are back to this moment, to your breath, and just realize this is where you're at. The past does not exist.
Mhm.
Time does not exist. If you have anxiety about the future, does not exist. This is the only thing that
Mhm.
you can control. So if there are things that you're worried about that happened, what other people think, that was another one. I was very self-conscious. Shedding your
Mhm.
self-consciousness and not caring. I cared way too much about what other people thought. I was the ultimate people pleaser. I changed my personality was not ever real. I was
Mhm.
constantly trying to, as a child through early adulthood till I was 40, I was constantly trying to become people's friends or and I was changing myself to accommodate them. And I
Right.
realized, looking back at all the various people, they were all so different and all wonderful and good experiences. But at the same time, I was never authentic.
Right.
And
Right.
so that understanding that and realizing, hey, I need to focus on myself and
Yeah.
what I can control and not worry about what other people think. And when other people have triggers or reactions or emotional things that come up, it may not necessarily be something I said or did. It just could be something else that they're dealing with or something else that they've dealt with in the past. So
Sure.
it's it's really about just being centered, and it sounds selfish, but at the same time, it makes you a better person for the people around you.
Absolutely, staying centered and staying focused, which is really hard, which is really hard to
Yeah.
do at times, right? I find it interesting because at one point, um, as we are prepping for this, you had talked about your old life
Mhm.
being fast paced, right? And I think a lot of us, especially in the neurodivergent community, confuse moving fast with being productive, right? We
Oh,
we
yeah.
th- we think if we're not exhausted we're not working. So I want to kind of validate the focus side of things here for the audience because a lot of what you're talking about, especially when it comes to um, meditation and all that, like that requires focus, right? You talk a lot about being on autopilot, right? And I
Mhm.
think that for me and my audience, autopilot usually means, I drove home and I don't remember how I got there because I was disassociating, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it probably goes a little bit deeper than that. How do you define autopilot in the context of everything that you talk about and teach every day?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say 70, 80% of the world population is on autopilot. And it's
Mm,
really just the patterns that we're reacting to as we go through life. So I would say, think about your childhood. Um, your parents probably told you a bunch of stuff, most times just out of convenience, maybe to
hmm
put you down, calm you down,
hmm
make you quiet. Your teachers, your uh, community, your social circles, whatever it was, they're regurgitating information that they believe and they become your beliefs. And you don't
Mhm.
have the mindset at that age to discern what's really true, what's not true, what's in your best interest. And those things become stronger and stronger in your neural pathways because you slowly go to the groups or the social circles, or obviously you're going to be with your parents throughout your lifetime. You inherit their limiting beliefs and their constraints, and you start to truly believe. Your brain literally like deepens the neural pathways
Mhm.
of these thoughts and beliefs, and so you become a person that's constrained by rules that aren't yours, with no understanding that the only constant in the world is change. And so you're living by truths that aren't true.
Mhm.
And so autopilot is really your subconscious mind is designed to operate 95% of your life without you having to think about it. That's how we develop as children, picking up the phone, dialing
Mhm.
somebody, driving a car, whatever, walking. I mean, those are things we all take for granted, obviously, but it's
Right.
also the same rules and patterns that we believe to be true become kind of our autopilot response. And so experiences that create certain emotional triggers, especially the ones that are traumatic. We think about people who suffer from PTSD. They constantly have that anchor that reminds them of that event or that emotion, and certain things will rise up and bring those things up. And until you're able to recognize and be aware and be present, or use that as that's kind of your opportunity to say, where is this coming from? Like, this is not me. This situation around me that I'm reacting to may or may not be something that needs to create this emotional
Mhm.
response. You're, in essence, being controlled by some outside force when you're the one technically with the control
Right.
of your mind. So, what is it? And so autopilot is really your reaction to whatever that past thing or that belief, or that attachment, that identity that you have to something or someone or an event or whatever you label you gave yourself or believed about yourself in the past, and you're reacting to it.
Mhm.
And you see it, man. I mean, the nice thing about this too is it's easier to see it in other people. And right now in the world where it doesn't matter what your beliefs are, there's emotional
Mhm.
reactions going on
Oh,
everywhere, and
yeah.
it's crazy.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Oh,
crazy.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
just and before you jump on a bandwagon or get upset about somebody on the other side, just recognize that they have their own emotional scars,
Mhm. Yes.
their own blend of craziness that they were taught from childhood till today. And 80% of them, at least, and this, that's an Eckhart Tolle stat, so don't
Mhm.
don't quote it
Yeah.
as fact, but it's roughly 4 out of 5 people are just reacting to something that happened in their past. And I
Yeah.
still do it. We all do it.
We all do
It's
it.
it's
Mhm.
so every day is an opportunity to be better, to be present, to detach from that stuff, and try to really focus on what you want to be and what you want your life to be like. And
Right.
that's really where it's hard to do, but in and you want to think things are good and bad and right and wrong, but there's degrees of that, there's polarity of that all over the
Mhm.
place. And so
Sure.
it's not your job to judge, kind of back away. Is it something you can control or something that's important to you? If not, it put the blinders up, you know and the best thing for you and for the world around you, and is to shine your light and focus on how you can make it brighter.
Right. You had mentioned focusing, like, on yourself, to and like, the things that you can control and so on and so forth. And I think that there's people out there like myself that do that, but then we take it, I feel like, a step too far, and then we enter the world of grind, right? Like
Yeah.
like where we're so focused on improving ourselves, and we end up living this world where we're just constantly grinding and grinding and grinding. and you come from the world of finance, and like I work in digital marketing, I work in the corporate world, and we're told that value equals output, right? That's what we're told. And so that pressure creates so much shame within us, especially, when it comes to like our executive dysfunction. So how, when we're focused on ourselves, how do we differentiate between having that healthy ambition that you were talking about before and just kind of like running ourselves into the ground? How do we differentiate those two things?
Sick told you that your value is from your actions and output, because I felt the same way growing up, and I felt
Hmm.
like I just got to try harder. I got to do more, and that'll make it better. My next deal will be bigger and better and rewarding if I just try a little harder. And it's baloney. You're serving the
Hmm.
purposes of somebody else.
Hmm.
So I get it. I have to remind myself of that too. I think that you need to really just focus on who is the if if you were to imagine yourself in your perfect world, what does your day look like?
Yeah.
What are you actually doing? Or what are the habits that you have and that you keep? Uh, what are the systems that you've created for yourself that allow you the freedom to do the things that you want to do? How are you putting your productivity on autopilot? How are you using automation
Hmm.
for the things that give you the resources for the life
Hmm.
that you want? And
Right.
then that's kind of where you want to live. That's the vision of your life. And then just back away and kind of bring it back to today and
Hmm.
figure out, how do I start to stack habits on my daily, how do I take care of myself? How do I breathe? How do I just take a moment? I think the funniest thing that I found was that the more silent, the more still I could be, the more I would just throw out kind of, this is my intention, this is what I want to happen. It sounds a little esoteric, but at the same time, your subconscious mind is working, and
Sure.
it had been working against you this whole time because you were feeding it the wrong stuff. Learn how to feed it what you want and
Right.
slow down the mental mind. So, like when
Right.
you think about brainwave activity, beta, which is where we all are when we're doing tons of work, our
Hmm.
prefrontal cortex is just racing.
Right.
We're when you slow that down, when you kind of bring it back into alpha, or theta, which is really what you see in meditation, you actually notice in your productivity, you become the things that you do are that much more powerful and that much more intentional and provide that much more productivity. So that's probably the best way to say it, just from thinking about, do less, and you'll more will come to
Right.
you.
Right.
And it's hard to do. I still find myself wanting to just continuously, like, because you're in the habit. You go back to the old person and you just keep working and you keep doing more and more. I was 80 hours a week, and going out five nights a week, and
Hmm.
so I'll sleep when I die type of
Yeah.
person. And no, that's not it. Like, that's the complete opposite. And you'll find it. You just got to force yourself to do it. So find the habits that nurture you, slow down that nervous system, breathe. Breath is like, I, I I mean, I could give you like 7 or 8 different types of breathing exercises that will really center you, slow you down, and really focus, your mindset on what you want to do and what you want to accomplish. Then you'll find that your actions are very pointed and really help out with productivity. So,
Sure. It's funny because you had mentioned breathing like a few like just
mhm.
now, and then obviously like breathing earlier when you were talking about your recovery, and you've pivoted a lot into mindfulness, right? And is it pronounced Ayurveda? Is that how you say it?
Ayurvedic or Ayurveda. Yeah, you
Yeah,
got it.
yeah. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of times when people hear those words, they'll think to themselves, "Okay, I just need to breathe more." Right? Like that's what they
Yeah.
think. But you combine that with neuroscience,
Yeah.
right? So what is the actual science behind why our brains get so cluttered and stuck in these loops?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned samskaras, which is kind of the yogi
Yeah.
side of things, and the 9 month trip that I started on with reading these books, when I went to breath, I started reading Eastern philosophy, another
Mhm.
place I never thought I would go.
Mhm.
Ayurveda is really the study of holistic wellness. So it takes the entire body. It's the complete opposite of Western medicine in the sense that we're very reactive and prescriptive. This is very proactive
Mhm.
and kind of forward thinking, where you're treating your ecosystem, your body, your mind, your spirit as one. We don't think about spirit in Western medicine, and we
Mhm.
certainly are still getting caught up on minds. But so Ayurveda, just to give you that, is more of a holistic, proactive
Mhm.
approach to wellness. As far as neuroscience is concerned, we look at neuroplasticity. We understand that the neural pathways are built by repetition. So just like at least when I was a kid, you learn math by memorization and repeating.
Mhm.
Same with letters and words
Right.
and so that's the neuroplasticity or kind of you have your prefrontal cortex, which is your conscious mind, which if you ask Freud, it's your personal conscious, or excuse me, that's your ego.
Mm.
If you ask Carl Jung, it's your personal consciousness or conscious. And then you move to your subconscious, which Freud is, it's your id.
Mhm.
For Jung, it's your unconscious mind, which is a great way of considering it. And on the spiritual side, you have your superconscious or your super ego for Freud and your collective unconscious. Like we don't know it's there, but it is kind of there. That's the
Mhm.
spiritual side of things. So psychology does dive into that. Yogis, it's very similar: conscious, subconscious, universal consciousness. I grew up Catholic. I was an altar
Mhm.
boy. I actually like it means Christianity means more to me now than it did then when I was
Mhm.
practicing. And I actually
Yeah.
think about the sign of the cross. And I think when you go to the Father, I'm like, all of a sudden I associate that
Mhm.
with my conscious mind.
Yeah.
The Son, which is following the orders of the Father. That's informing your subconscious mind of your beliefs and what to do. And the Holy Spirit, which is the superconscious, which is the connectivity
Mhm.
that we all have, whatever you want to call it. But so whether it's religion or science or Eastern philosophy, Native American spiritualism, kind of Christian mysticism, Stoicism. I could name every ism you
Yeah.
can imagine, but they're all saying the same thing. So there's really no escaping it, and uh, so we are really teaching ourselves or informing our subconscious of who we are and what we want to do. And that subconscious then goes out and connects us with the rest of the world and performs the things and connects us to the people and environment that we believe that we should be around. And it's almost, and I'm going to go a little out there, but you think about it like your brain is way more powerful than your cell phone or AI or anything else.
Sure. Mhm.
When you get into quantum computing, they're talking about storing information on an electron. You have millions and trillions of electrons inside of you. So if your phone, or if you're older, think about dialing up the radio. You tune
Mhm.
your frequency on the radio, and your dial goes and pulls the frequency that's vibrating around in the sky, and you're able to listen to what you want to hear. If I want to call you up on my phone, I dial your number, and it connects me with you because
Mhm.
that's exactly who I want to talk to. So your mind is the same way. I mean, you really just need to say, what is it that I want? And what is that feeling? I mean, it communicates differently. It's really about, it's kind of like music and emotion, and it goes where your attention goes. It's the old
Mhm.
where your attention goes, your energy flows. There's
Mhm.
all of these cliches now make sense, but
Mhm.
in essence, you when you focus on things you don't like or you're against something, like I'll use something that might be a little controversial. Like, say you're against cancer. We're all against
Okay.
cancer.
Yeah.
But in
Mhm.
theory, by thinking about cancer, we're drawing it into our mental
I see what you're
framework.
saying. Hmm.
So, so it's always important to start to keep your thoughts positive and focused on what you want because you're informing your subconscious mind. You're creating that neuroplasticity in your brain. You are sending out the frequency and the vibe with
Yes.
God. You are sending it out to the world, and you're getting that
Yeah.
same vibe back. It's
Yeah.
like attracts like. There are just some universal laws that have been around for a long time, and those are real. And so, and it's really simple, but it's so hard to do because we were
You're
never
right.
taught this, and we were led to believe that our actions are what are going to drive what comes in our life. And certainly taking guided action, intelligent, aligned action is a part of it. I mean, you're here to create and live and enjoy life and make mistakes, but at the end of the day, it's the feeling, the emotion, the thought, and where your focus is. And the stronger the concentration, the more you're putting out that stronger frequency. And whatever that frequency is, the people, the environment, the places that vibrate with that frequency are going to come into your life.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
uh, it's a hard thing to understand, but then all of a sudden, if you get it, and you'll experience it, but if you get it, you start to focus more on yourself and
Hmm.
what you're thinking and what you're saying to yourself and what you allow other people to say in your realm, and you start to block out the noise. You start to block out the mental chatter, and
Yeah.
they say that you are the equation is you are the function or of the five people that you surround yourself with the most, and your environment. So you're the people plus the environment is you. You know,
Right.
so if you think about that, those are the things that are informing your subconscious mind is the people and the environment. And we're going to get more of that back. So change your environment, do the best to change the people that you're around, but change the person inside first because that's the only thing that you can control. And so that's the thing I work on every day. And
Hmm.
there's no right answer, and don't kick yourself because every day is different.
Hmm.
It's kind of what I used to teach in yoga. Like if you can't touch your toes today, don't worry about it. You might be able to do it tomorrow, but
Yeah.
forgive yourself and keep trying.
Yeah. Hearing you talk about all of this, it reminds me of the quote that you have that says, it took me 10 years to learn that the world is mental, right?
Mhm.
Which I love. And I think that hits heavy. Can you unpack can you unpack that quote for somebody who's listening who feels like their world is just a constant series of just these external fires that they have to put out every single day. Can you unpack that quote for them?
Yeah. So it's a lot to do with what I just said, for
Yeah.
sure. But for that person, and just know that we're all dealing with that in our own way, and we all have our own little blend of whatever that means. And there's nobody else in the world that's going to go through it exactly like you, because you're the only one that had your experiences, had your parents. If you had a twin, they still had different experiences than you. So there's just no one that's going to fully appreciate and understand your life better than you.
Mhm.
And so you have to kind of face up to it. And I think the challenge is living with the anxiety and the stress or whatever it is that's causing you that stress on a daily basis while trying to work through it. And but the important part is, you don't want to continuously live in the past. There's many different ways to go about it. The way I've kind of I wrote business plans. I still write business plans for companies. And every company is different. Everybody's trying to
Mhm.
solve a different problem. When I went through my accident, I realized I had to write a business plan for myself for life. And there's certain key milestones that, while we're all different, still resonate. And part of that is just waking up to this fact that your uh, past is no longer. Your mindset, wherever it is today, is a product of that past. But your mindset tomorrow and who you are tomorrow is going to be a product of what your mindset is today. So
Mm.
you're the only person that's going to be able to either figure out a way to detach from, or just completely chop off the past and be present. And therefore, it will slowly kind of have less power over you. But just
Mhm.
start each day iteratively and work on it, because
Yeah.
every day is going to be different. Forgive yourself. You're going to feel the stress. Keep drawing yourself back to now and keep working on yourself. Keep reflecting on, why is this causing so much emotional stress and anxiety? I'm still here.
Mhm.
As long as you're here each day and you wake up each day, it's a blessing. Be grateful
That's
for where you
absolutely.
are.
Mhm.
And if you're awakening to this fact that um, for instance, I like to joke that we all believed in, or I believed in Santa Claus and the
Sure.
Easter
Yeah.
Bunny
Yeah.
and the Tooth Fairy. And then one day, some second grader ruined my life and told me the truth.
Oh my
And I got
goodness.
over it. It took
Yeah.
a while to get over it, but I got over it. And I don't believe that anymore. So there's nothing I believe stronger than that in December than that Santa was coming to town.
Mhm.
So do you have other beliefs in your past that are exactly the same? They're probably as true as Santa Claus is, but you just don't realize it. So you need to go dig and figure it out. Don't spend your entire life trying to figure it out, but figure out a way to identify what is it that's, if you have this anxiety or stress, something's causing it. Take it as a blessing and try to figure out what's causing it. Where did it come from? How do I belittle it? Can I give it an identity? Kierkegaard used to say to name me or to identify me is to limit me. So if you can start to use that tool against whatever it is that's causing you anxiety, where it's stemming from, give it a funny name, give it a silly name.
Mhm.
Ask yourself why. Why do I believe this? And be the 5-year-old and say why. And then when you answer, ask yourself why. Why is that? Why is that? Until you say it because I told you so. I mean, basically, that's what parents do.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
I told you so. But that
Yeah.
that you now know that that's just a bull answer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what
Absolutely.
you're telling your subconscious. So I mean, play some
Yeah.
games, but figure out ways to detach, because there's a lot to untouch, and you
Yeah.
may never do it, but the more you can become present and take away the power that these things that don't exist and may not have been true, remove the power from your head and your mind, and you can start to reimagine who it is that you really are and find your
Yeah.
authenticity, and then design the life that you want around that passion or what you want. And
Yeah.
there's tools out there to do it. That's when life becomes fun, is when you're
Yeah.
here in that moment.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I love the concept of everything, but I know for a fact that there's gonna be people listening that are going to be skeptical because it just sounds so easy, right? Like, it just sounds like, "Well, just do this. It's easy to do. Just do it," right?
Yeah.
So I wanna ask the tough question here. Is like,
Mhm.
you had, this awakening, you dove into philosophy, you built, FlowVeda, right?
Mhm.
I know there's, like, for example, there's some single parents that are listening, or
Yeah.
the guy who works two retail jobs just to pay rent.
Yeah.
They usually they usually can't like necessarily disappear, to any place, and just take all this time to reflect, right? So how does someone practice mindfulness when I guess they're just trying to survive the week? How can they practice that?
Yeah, totally. And I've been there. I get it.
Yeah.
I used to caddy 2 bags. I had a few times where I was working nights, stocking shelves and getting up and doing construction in the morning, just to put some money together.
Hmm.
I've had wild swings
Yeah.
of income, and usually it would go away. It would
Yeah.
fall away. You have to find some way to find some meaning there. So I think it's really it took me 10 years, and I was not a believer. I was the last person that would believe anything that I've just said for the last 45 minutes
Hmm.
with you here. So I know I would have been the same guy.
Hmm.
All I could say is, I spent 10 years questioning everything, trying everything, experimenting with different things,
Yeah.
so that and the concept of FlowVeda really was so you don't have to jump off a cliff and go
Mhm.
to the hospital.
Mhm.
FlowVeda is an uh, Ayurvedic herbs that really
Mhm.
the idea and concept behind it was to slow down the mind naturally over time without any drugs or
Mhm.
caffeine or anything like that.
Yeah.
But in essence, meditation in a bottle, which is not
Mhm.
possible. And this pill is not going to save your life or change your life, or you've got to do it.
Mhm.
But when your mind is racing and you're constantly stressed out and constantly thinking nothing good is going to happen because you're just going to keep drawing that in. So for the person that
Like you
is
said
doing
earlier,
what,
you're inviting that into you're inviting that into your brain. Yeah.
yeah. And so,
Mhm.
you know, it's been a while, but I'd say the person I was 15 years ago and sporadically in between from time to time, I was you. And
Mhm.
I'm talking to my old self who would never believe me, but I'm asking you to believe me.
Yeah.
um, when you're working that extra job or whatnot, be mindful of what you're thinking. Just take a step back. It's all about finding the gap between what you're thinking and the emotions that you have tied to it, because the
Mhm.
stories we tell in our mind are going to continue over and over and over again until you stop it. And
Mhm.
see, the meditation helps you create that gap
Right.
between your reaction and the stimuli that's causing it. And
Right.
the wider that gap becomes, the more you can look at that stimulus, that environment, whatever it is, your situation, your money, your health, whatever it is, the more you can take a step back from that and try to figure out how to break it down.
Mhm.
That's what's going to slowly start to help you pull away from it,
Right.
kind of remove its power from you,
Yeah.
and it will happen, and you just got to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Uh, but there is no. It seems simple, but it really is. Wherever your focus is, wherever your energy goes, that is what's going to come into your life. That is what is in your life. And so, if you're constantly ruminating on a problem or a thought, which thought rumination is the number one cause of depression.
Mhm.
So it's up to you. You're the only one who has control up here. The 5% of the things that go on in your life start here. And you can
Mhm.
change the neural pathways. You can tell your brain something different. In yoga, you use mantras. Other studies use affirmations. The ancient Toltecs, if you're familiar with the four agreements, use agreements. But
Mhm.
basically, everything that you did when you were younger were agreements. You made the
Mhm.
agreement that Santa Claus was real until you found out
Mhm.
he wasn't. You
Yeah.
made the agreement that your parents may have said money doesn't grow on trees, and you believed that, and you have informed your subconscious of that. So it's up to you to change that story. And, it's hard to believe when you don't see it, don't realize it. Um, you you can look at wealthier people if money is the issue and say it's been done. It can be done.
Mhm.
And there are certainly people that are have better situations than you. It might have been an easier ride, but there are
Mhm.
others that haven't. And so there's
Yeah.
always an example of somebody out there that's done it. So you
Mhm.
can do it too. And if anybody's done it, you just got to recognize that your path's going to be your own,
Right.
because nobody's been where you've been. And it's really just, kind of, I want to be the inspiring guy. Put on your most inspiring music, and just say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to
Mhm.
start thinking about the guy that I want to be 10 years from now or 5 years from
Mhm.
now. It doesn't even have to be 10 years. It's
Right.
10 years if you want to be as anal as me and look
Mhm.
at every little detail and have
Sure.
to experiment with every little thing until you finally are convinced of it. Or you could just convince yourself of it and start today and just
Yeah.
start changing your story. And if you're going to constantly ruminate on how awesome your life is and what you're
Mhm.
grateful for and what's coming into it. And all I can say is try to detach from the things that are holding you back or the things that are not allowing your subconscious to believe it, and just work from both angles until you
Mhm.
push those things further and further away from you. And all you have is the present,
Right.
and
Uh,
uh, and it'll get
yeah.
easier.
I want to talk about the Flow Veda side of things because
Mm.
the Flow Veda takes a non-stimulant approach, right, to a lot of things. I am very vocal because one of the bigger questions that people ask me is, okay, Kai, for your neurodivergentness, do you take medication? And I'm very open about the things that I take. Like I take Wellbutrin, I take
Mhm.
Adderall. It's part of my toolkit. I always say to people, what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. So I'm never just like advocating for medication. I'm just saying like it just happens to work for me.
Yep.
I think there's sometimes a fear in the neurodivergent community and the ADHD community that, you know, things like FlowVeda are going to, I guess, either take my meds away or they're going to replace my med, whatever it may be. What is your stance on the stimulants that people in the neurodivergent community take to make it through the day? And is FlowVeda more of a instead of solution, or is it a partner with solution?
Yeah, that's a good question, and a little loaded. So I'm not going
Yeah,
to tell anybody what they should or shouldn't be taking because I don't
yeah,
know your life. I don't know your situation.
hmm,
I don't know what got you to where you are today
yeah,
or what's affecting you. So always consult with your physician for sure. We have over 500 physicians that
hmm,
share FlowVeda with their patients today. And it's growing, which is nice as kind of an alternative to prescription drugs. So, yeah, I think it would be my hope, honestly, that it would replace what you are taking or some of what you are taking.
hmm,
So, Ayurvedic based, I mean, the ingredients, and I won't dive too deep into it, but ashwagandha really is focused on stress. It's been around for thousands of years. We use
yeah,
KSM 66, which is the premium brand. Lion's mane mushroom is kind of for your nerve growth
hmm,
factor, your neuroplasticity. It affects your creativity, helps you rewire your neurons for your thoughts. L-theanine is kind of, it's like green, it's the
hmm,
extract from green tea. It
yeah,
keeps you calm, but you're still alert, doesn't slow you down. Rhodiola rosea, Bacopa monnieri, both have very specific uh, impacts to both your neurotransmitters as far as helping you
hmm,
control your neurotransmitters, which I'm sure your audience understands kind of that's
yeah,
your moods and emotions are tied to your neurotransmitters, but it helps with the synthesis, regulation, and kind of making sure that you're not getting too much of it or too little of it.
right,
So these
right,
are all things that have been around, and there's some vitamins and other amino acids that are tied together intentionally. But 86% of it is basically herbs that have been around and recommended for people uh, in the neurodiversity community for thousands of years,
yeah,
and it's very holistic. It goes beyond just what you're dealing with in your head, but it's also your mind and your spirit.
hmm,
And so I would say over the last 60 or 70 years, there's been a lot of clinical research on these ingredients, but they're natural.
right,
Almost every ingredient we have one very bioavailable version of L-tyrosine that is synthetic, but
hmm,
there's a reason why I chose that.
hmm,
But ultimately, these are things that have been proven for thousands of years not to have side effects. They're very natural. They build up the physiology in your brain and body to kind of help support kind of the similar effects it mirrors on a very small level, kind of what you experience
hmm,
through a regular meditation practice, and that is
right,
it's really it slows down the mental chatter and it just puts a little bit larger of a gap between what it is that's causing your emotions and your recognition of it, so
right,
that you can take a pause and try to slowly detach from it. So
right,
um, I would say, it's something that um, I would encourage people to try for sure. We have a
hmm,
starter kit. It's a 60-day, 3 capsules a day. And the reason it's 60 days is you probably won't notice anything for 3 or 4 weeks.
hmm,
We actually had a mother whose teenage son suffered from ADHD.
Mhm.
Came back to her. We actually asked her to put a video up because
Yeah.
didn't want anybody not to believe us. But she said, "Mom, the noise is gone. I can focus. I can concentrate." It
Mhm.
only took him a week. So
Mhm.
it has different impacts to different people. I'll let our members and users kind of be our storytellers. I don't want to tell people what they should and shouldn't do. It's got a 100% money back guarantee. So if it's not working for you or you're not seeing it, totally understandable. You can get your money back. And then we have
Yeah.
memberships. And what I'm trying to do with the brand is really evolve it beyond the nootropic. It's
Mhm.
supposed to be a mental wellness, health and wellness lifestyle brand. And everything that we talked about today, I'm trying to communicate, especially when you focus really on awakening to this
Yeah.
fact that your mind works this way and becoming aware and present. Those are really that's the major struggle of most people. I mean, that's 90% of the population. You're either on autopilot,
Mhm.
awaken to the fact that you're on autopilot, or becoming present. The rest is really detaching from it, and that never ends. But the more you detach from it, the more you start to realize who you really are. And then we're slowly introducing tools to help you discover that, to design the life around that, to create the habits, the agreements, the mantras, understand these universal laws that I was telling you about: frequency,
Mhm.
vibration. Um, there's 7 or 8 of them that are very important, and then how to use them. And
Mhm.
once you start to get to that point, different parts of your life will evolve quicker than others. People will see that one part of their life might be doing great, and another part, might be doing terrible. And that's when you need to go back to the beginning on the parts that you need to work on, and continue to be vigilant on the parts that are. And there are no right answers. There's no path that you're going to specifically follow, but you can certainly mirror those that have done it before you. And so, yeah, FlowVeda is intended to help more than just provide you with a natural capsule. Um, I'm very upfront. I don't expect this to change your life, but it will help you create that gap. If meditation is hard for you to do, it will help at least be that substitute for on a very small level. And if you do try to meditate, it will help widen that gap. That's what I've found, and it's really quite amazing. I got to
Yeah.
say, every day is more fun for me, and I still have my setbacks.
Yeah.
My wife will still look at me when I have some crazy reaction to something, and it makes me realize I got to work on this,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
Mhm.
And it's also funny because I have a 3-year-old kid, and now I realize I'm his parent, and I'm
Yeah.
teaching him his own
Yeah.
limiting beliefs. So it makes
Yeah.
me check myself a little bit more to say, hey, he's going to grow up and he's going to be limited by whatever it is that I'm feeding him, or he's going to be limitless because I'm teaching him that he's the one that controls his life. He's the one that controls what's going through his head, and the vibe and the frequency that he sends out is what's going to come back to him. So I love
Right.
the name of your
Yeah.
podcast, by the way.
Yeah.
It's ironic that I was
Yeah.
looking forward to this for sure.
Yeah, man. No, I'm happy that you're here. And for anybody that's listening right now that is interested in learning more about FlowVeda, I'm going to include the link for all of this stuff in the show notes for it. So all you have to do is click, and all of the information is there. And like Jay said, just go check it out. If it's for you. If it's not, that's totally okay. But just like give it a shot, see if it's something for you. You never know, and could change your life. Potentially, which I think is a really cool idea there. I'm sure there were times during your recovery when you were just in a place where you're just like in a dark place. You're like, what the hell,
Yeah,
And I'm sure you look back at it now with hindsight's 2020, and I'm sure as tragic and traumatic as that was, I'm sure you're thankful for that in a way. I would imagine, right?
absolutely. I mean, my
Yeah,
that business that might have seemed successful just went away. I mean, there was no
yeah,
way of I couldn't upstart it again. And I
Mhm.
turned to advisory. I had to go out and get a job, and I don't fit well in the corporate world.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, there was always some ups and downs, and there's always
Mhm.
some things that haunt you, and until you are able to detach from them.
Mhm.
And so you got to do the work, but the work is worth it, and it is fun once you get to a certain level. And if you can look
Yeah.
at like the best aspect of your life, whatever part of your life you enjoy the most, just think about the rest of your life can be like that too. And whatever
Exactly.
got you there, you know, there are tools that work for me, but there are other tools that will work for you. And I'm not going to feed you what works for me. Your
Yeah.
life's going to be different. Everybody comes from a different place, but something will resonate with you.
Mhm.
And if you can find what's kind of aligned with your authenticity and who you really are, and not that person that you believe you are, or
Mhm.
the world that you believe in today is not. It's not true. None of it's
Mhm.
true.
Yeah.
And whoever you are tomorrow is really a product of what you're thinking and focusing on today. So keep
Absolutely.
it positive, change the story, even if it's not true, fake it till you make it until it becomes true, because
Mhm.
your brain is listening, your subconscious brain is listening. If you don't believe in the kind of ancient, Eastern philosophy, but you believe in the modern neuroscience, because it's saying it's just catching up. It still
Yeah, sure.
doesn't quite fully get there. All they're doing, if I was a scientist, I would just go read Eastern philosophy and then try to prove what's already
Yeah.
been known to be true, and
Yeah.
you'll be great at your job. But
Yeah.
so modern science is still catching up, but it's proven that
Yeah.
what you think about, like, it works both ways. If you're ruminating on your thought, it's the number one cause of depression. Everything that you're thinking or doing, you're sending out the vibe and frequency, and that's
Yeah.
coming back to you. So focus on what you want, focus on what you're for, focus on who you are, and build up your barrier. I build up, I try to create one purpose and motion or mission for myself. I create, I have 6 values that I made rhyme so I would never forget: faith, family, fitness, finance, fun, and flow.
I
And
love it.
if it doesn't fit within that framework, and I need it to rhyme because it's the only way I'll remember it. But if something distracts me, or my phone sends me a stupid message about some story that has nothing to do with my life, I
Yeah.
can't control it. If it triggers my emotions. That's what you're in marketing. You're
Mhm.
trying to trigger the
Oh,
emotion.
yeah.
You're trying to grab our attention. Don't let your attention be hijacked. Find your model, your mindset, and say nothing. If it doesn't fit within these values, if it doesn't help me in my mission, then it doesn't get my attention. Block it out,
Mhm.
or figure out a way to use it to your advantage,
Yeah.
to propel yourself forward, or past it. So that's kind of like the flow stages and the things
Yeah.
that I'll be ex- exploring with people like yourself, and trying to share as part of our lifestyle brand. But ultimately, create the framework that works for you, and don't let anybody take away your attention if it's not for your benefit.
I
That's
love it. I love it. Jay, thank you so much for hanging out, with me today, and like I said, anybody that's listening right now that is, uh, very curious about what Jay is, is offering right now. I'm going to include all of the links down in the description of this podcast. So all you have to do is go take a look. Just click, give it a shot. See, just read about it, read more about it. Listen to other people's stories. There's other people that have taken this next step and found success in it. And so if anything, at least you read up about it, and you make your own decision and go from there. Jay, I appreciate you hanging out with me today, man. Thank you so
No,
much.
I appreciate it as well. It was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
man. Thanks.
All right.
I gotta tell you, it is so rare to talk to someone who has literally faced the death of their old identity and come out on the other side with so much clarity. My biggest takeaway from Jay is the idea that autopilot is just a reaction to a past version of ourselves that might not even be true anymore. We spend so much energy feeding our subconscious the wrong stuff, and then we wonder why we feel stuck. If Jay's story resonated with you, please go check out the show notes. I've included all the links to FlowVeda and Jay's work so you can explore those natural tools all yourself. And of course, a huge thank you to Sucreabeille for sponsoring this week's Vibe. Make sure you grab a bottle of Why Did I Walk Into This Room at sucreabeille.com and support the people who support the show. If you want more free resources, head on over to thevibewithkai.com. We have a blog, the podcast archives, and my email list all right there for you. And if you're ready to take a deeper dive with me, join our community on Patreon or Facebook for only $5 a month. If you subscribe, you'll get that Reverse the Mic segment that I was telling you about earlier that you missed today. You'll get that plus the full ADHD deep dive video library and a look at the private parts of my mental health journey and my life that keep me grounded. Make sure you're following me on all of your favorite social media platforms at The Vibe with Kai. And if you have a second, leave a review. Those reviews, it helps more than you know. Once again, thank you so much for watching and for listening. As always, my friends, much love, good vibes. I'll catch you next time. Bye.